What if I told you that everything you've been taught about creating wealth has been backwards? Right now, as you're watching this, your mind is processing thousands of thoughts, filtering information, and making countless micro-decisions that shape your reality. Most people believe that wealth creation happens through external actions alone, working harder, finding better opportunities, or learning new strategies. But what if the real breakthrough lies not in what you do, but in how you think? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Consider this for a moment. Why do some people seem to effortlessly attract opportunities, while others struggle despite working just as hard? Why do certain individuals appear to have an almost magnetic quality when it comes to success and prosperity? The answer might be found in a realm that most of us barely acknowledge: the vast, largely untapped power of our subconscious mind. Your subconscious operates like a sophisticated computer running in the background of your consciousness, processing information at speeds your conscious mind simply cannot match. It stores every belief you've ever formed, every pattern you've learned, and every emotional association you've developed about money, success, and your own capabilities. Has this ever happened to you? You've worked tirelessly toward a goal, only to find yourself unconsciously sabotaging your own progress. This invisible mental programming doesn't just influence your thoughts, it actively shapes your perception of opportunities, your confidence in decision-making, and even the types of people and situations you attract into your life. When your conscious desires conflict with your subconscious programming, guess which one typically wins? The deeper programming almost always prevails, often leaving you wondering why success feels so elusive despite your best efforts. The fascinating aspect of subconscious conditioning is that it operates through what researchers call selective attention. Your mind literally filters reality to match your internal beliefs and expectations. If your deep-seated programming tells you that financial abundance is difficult or reserved for others, your brain will unconsciously highlight evidence supporting that belief while overlooking contradictory information. But here's where it gets interesting, and what you're about to discover might surprise you. The same mechanism that can limit your potential can also be consciously redirected to enhance it. Your subconscious mind, which has been shaped by years of external influences, can be systematically reprogrammed through specific mental practices and awareness techniques. The science behind neuroplasticity shows us that our brains remain remarkably adaptable throughout our lives, capable of forming new neural pathways and strengthening positive thought patterns. When you understand how to work with your subconscious rather than against it, you begin to notice shifts in your behavior, decision-making, and even the opportunities that seem to present themselves. Stay with me until the end, because what we're about to explore goes far beyond simple positive thinking or wishful visualization. We're diving into the practical psychology of wealth creation, examining how successful individuals have learned to align their conscious goals with their subconscious programming to create what appears to be almost effortless attraction of resources, connections, and opportunities. The question isn't whether you have the potential for greater financial success. The question is whether you're ready to discover what's been holding that potential back. When you understand how these internal elements work together, your reprogrammed beliefs, consistent visualization, emotional mastery, and inspired action, you create a powerful alignment that transforms your relationship with money and opportunity from the inside out. This isn't about forcing external changes through willpower alone, but about becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts and sustains the wealth you desire. The journey we've explored today represents more than just techniques for financial improvement. It's about recognizing and developing the sophisticated mental capabilities you already possess, then directing them toward creating the life you genuinely want, rather than simply accepting whatever circumstances happen to appear. Your transformation begins the moment you decide that your current financial reality reflects old programming rather than permanent limitations. From that decision point forward, every day becomes an opportunity to strengthen new patterns and move closer to the prosperity that's been waiting for your mind to catch up with your potential. If you've stayed with me through this entire exploration of consciousness and wealth creation, you're clearly someone who takes personal development seriously. The insights we've covered today are the foundation that successful people use to create lasting financial transformation. And I create content like this because I know there are people ready to apply these principles rather than just consuming them passively. If this resonates with how you want to approach your financial growth, I'd love to have you subscribe to the channel. This is where I consistently share the deeper psychology behind wealth building, the mental strategies that most people never discover, and the practical approaches that create real results rather than temporary motivation. Drop a comment saying, "This message was meant for me," if you made it all the way through, because I genuinely want to know who's ready to do this internal work rather than just hoping for external changes. When you hit that like button, you're letting me know this connection we've created over the last hour has value for your journey. There's a video right here that takes these concepts even deeper, showing you exactly how to implement these mental practices in your daily routine for maximum impact. Click and continue with me over there, because your transformation is just getting started. The hidden truth behind this transformation lies in one of the most remarkable discoveries about human consciousness. Your subconscious mind operates without the ability to distinguish between what you've actually experienced and what you've vividly imagined. This isn't some mystical concept. It's a documented psychological phenomenon that explains why certain individuals seem to naturally attract wealth, while others remain trapped in cycles of financial struggle. When you repeatedly visualize yourself succeeding, making profitable decisions, or living abundantly, your subconscious processes these mental rehearsals as genuine experiences. It begins forming neural pathways and behavioral patterns based on these imagined scenarios, essentially preparing your mind and body to recognize and act upon similar opportunities in reality. This is why athletes mentally rehearse their performances and entrepreneurs visualize successful outcomes. They're literally programming their subconscious to support their conscious goals. But here's where most people unknowingly sabotage their own progress. While they might occasionally engage in positive visualization, their dominant internal dialogue often tells a completely different story. Throughout the day, they reinforce beliefs that directly contradict their financial aspirations. Thoughts like, "People like me don't become wealthy," or "money always seems to slip through my fingers," become the primary programming running in their mental background. These limiting beliefs operate like invisible filters, shaping not just how you think about money, but how you perceive and respond to financial opportunities. When your subconscious is programmed with scarcity-based beliefs, it will unconsciously guide you away from situations that could lead to abundance, or cause you to misinterpret promising circumstances as threats or impossibilities. The impact goes beyond mere perception. Your limiting beliefs influence your energy levels, your willingness to take calculated risks, your ability to recognize valuable connections, and even your body language during important conversations or negotiations. People can sense confidence and abundance-minded thinking, often responding more favorably to individuals who genuinely believe in their own potential for success. The journey of identifying these hidden mental barriers requires honest self-examination. Many of these beliefs were formed during childhood or through repeated exposure to certain messages about money and success. Perhaps you grew up hearing that money doesn't grow on trees, or that wealthy people are somehow morally questionable. These early Impressions can become deeply embedded assumptions that continue operating decades later despite your conscious desire for financial improvement. What makes this particularly challenging is that limiting beliefs rarely announce themselves clearly. They disguise themselves as logical reasoning or practical concerns. When you find yourself automatically dismissing opportunities as too risky or not for someone like me, you're often encountering the influence of these subconscious programs. Rather than making purely rational assessments, the revelation becomes even more significant when you realize that your current financial reality is largely a reflection of your dominant beliefs about what you deserve, what's possible, and what you're capable of achieving. Change those beliefs, and you inevitably begin changing the behaviors, decisions, and opportunities that shape your material circumstances. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic and show you exactly how these mental patterns can be systematically identified and transformed. The process isn't about forcing yourself to think positively while ignoring reality. It's about recognizing which aspects of your current thinking actually serve your goals and which ones unconsciously work against them. Write in the comments, "Ready for transformation," if you're recognizing these patterns in your own thinking. The transformation begins the moment you become conscious of the constant conversation happening inside your mind. Right now, as you process these words, there's an internal voice commenting, analyzing, perhaps even arguing with what you're hearing. This voice has been shaping your decisions about money, opportunities, and your own capabilities for years. Yet most people never deliberately choose what it says. Your internal dialogue operates like a radio station that's been playing the same playlist for decades. Some tracks uplift and motivate you, while others replay old fears and limitations on endless repeat. The breakthrough comes when you realize you can change the station. Instead of passively listening to whatever thoughts arise, you can consciously choose more empowering messages to feed your subconscious mind. If this resonates with your approach to financial growth, a like lets me know this deeper content creates real value for your journey. The science behind this approach reveals something remarkable about neuroplasticity and habit formation. When you deliberately repeat specific phrases with intention and emotion, you're not just thinking positive thoughts, you're literally rewiring neural pathways in your brain. Each repetition strengthens these new connections while weakening the old patterns that have been holding you back financially. But here's the crucial element most people miss. The power isn't in the words themselves, but in the consistency and conviction behind them. Saying, "Money flows to me easily" once while harboring deep doubts accomplishes very little. However, when you repeat this statement daily with genuine feeling and clear intention, your subconscious begins to accept it as a new operating principle. Think of your mind as fertile soil that will grow whatever seeds you consistently plant. If you've been unconsciously planting seeds of doubt, scarcity, and limitation, that's exactly what has flourished in your financial reality. The garden metaphor isn't just poetic, it reflects how your subconscious actually processes and responds to repeated information. Every affirmation you speak with conviction acts like a seed containing immense potential. Initially, nothing visible happens above the surface. Your external circumstances might remain unchanged for weeks or even months. But underground, in the hidden realm of your subconscious programming, roots are forming and strengthening. These roots eventually influence your perception, your confidence, your decision-making, and ultimately your actions. The impact becomes evident in subtle but significant ways. You might notice yourself speaking up in meetings where previously you stayed silent. You could find yourself researching investment opportunities instead of dismissing them as too complicated. Small shifts in behavior compound over time, creating momentum that leads to larger transformations in your financial circumstances. What makes this process particularly powerful is that your subconscious doesn't distinguish between current reality and the new reality. You're consistently describing through your affirmations. When you repeatedly declare, "I am worthy of wealth," with genuine feeling, your subconscious begins organizing your thoughts and behaviors to align with this new self-concept. The journey requires patience because you're essentially overriding years of contradictory programming. Your old mental patterns won't disappear overnight, but each day you choose empowering affirmations over limiting self-talk. You're strengthening the new neural pathways while allowing the old ones to weaken through disuse. The hidden truth about successful people is that most of them, consciously or unconsciously, have developed this skill of directing their internal dialogue toward their desired outcomes. They've learned to catch themselves when negative financial thoughts arise and deliberately replace them with more empowering alternatives. Now, I want to explore how this internal transformation begins to manifest in your external world through a phenomenon that most people overlook completely. The bridge between your transformed thinking and your transformed circumstances involves understanding how your subconscious mind communicates with the world around you through your energy, your presence, and your intuitive decision-making. Write in the comments, "Planting new seeds," if you're ready to start this mental garden transformation. Your subconscious responds not just to the words you repeat, but to the mental images you consistently create. When you close your eyes and vividly picture yourself making confident financial decisions, your brain begins forming the neural pathways associated with that confident state. This isn't wishful thinking. It's mental rehearsal, the same technique elite athletes use to improve their performance before competition. The fascinating aspect of visualization lies in how your nervous system responds to detailed mental imagery. When you imagine yourself signing a profitable business contract, your body experiences subtle physiological changes. Your posture shifts, your breathing deepens, your facial expressions alter. These micro changes accumulate over time, gradually shifting how others perceive and respond to you in real-world interactions. Behind the scenes of your conscious awareness, something remarkable occurs during focused visualization. Your subconscious begins scanning your environment more actively for opportunities that align with the images you've been creating. It's similar to how you suddenly notice a particular car model everywhere after deciding to buy one. The cars were always there, but your attention wasn't programmed to recognize them. This selective attention phenomenon explains why some people seem to stumble upon opportunities while others miss them entirely. Those who regularly visualize success have essentially trained their subconscious to highlight possibilities that match their mental imagery. Their brain becomes a sophisticated filtering system, emphasizing relevant information while de-emphasizing distractions. The impact extends beyond personal awareness into the realm of interpersonal dynamics. People who consistently visualize themselves as successful tend to carry themselves differently, speak with greater conviction, and make decisions with increased confidence. Others respond to these subtle energy shifts, often without consciously understanding why they feel more inclined to trust or collaborate with such individuals. Research into consciousness and intention suggests something even more intriguing. When you maintain clear, emotionally charged mental images consistently over time, you may influence not just your internal state, but somehow affect the probability of external events aligning with your visualized outcomes. While the mechanisms behind this phenomenon remain debated, the practical results have been documented across various fields. The key lies in creating mental images that feel authentic and achievable to your current belief system. If you attempt to visualize circumstances that your subconscious finds completely implausible, you'll encounter internal resistance that weakens the entire process. Instead, focus on scenarios that represent meaningful progress from your current position. Images that inspire excitement rather than skepticism. Your visualization practice becomes most powerful when you engage multiple senses and emotions simultaneously. Rather than simply seeing yourself in a more prosperous situation, feel the emotions you would experience, hear the conversations you would have, notice the physical sensations of confidence and success. This multisensory approach creates more robust neural pathways and stronger emotional associations. The transformation happens gradually as your repeated mental imagery begins influencing your spontaneous thoughts throughout the day. Instead of automatically assuming opportunities are beyond your reach, you start considering possibilities more seriously. Instead of focusing on obstacles, you find yourself naturally thinking through potential solutions. Your external behavior begins reflecting these internal shifts in ways that compound over time. You might find yourself researching investments you previously ignored, networking with people outside your usual circle, or speaking up in situations where you once remained silent. Each small behavioral change creates ripple effects that can lead to significantly different outcomes. Now I want to examine how these mental practices translate into concrete actions and decisions that actually change your financial circumstances, because understanding the psychology is only the beginning of this transformation. Write in the comments, seeing the connection, if you're starting to understand how your mental imagery affects your reality. The bridge between transformed thinking and transformed circumstances emerges through what happens in those crucial moments. When opportunity presents itself, your reprogrammed subconscious doesn't just change how you think, it fundamentally alters how you respond to situations that could impact your financial future. Where you once hesitated, you now act with calculated confidence. Where you previously saw obstacles, you now recognize stepping stones. Subscribe if you want to dive deeper into these mental strategies that create lasting financial change. Each video builds on the last. This shift in behavioral patterns often surprises people experiencing it. They find themselves having conversations they would have avoided before, asking questions that previously felt too bold, or pursuing opportunities that once seemed beyond their reach. The internal dialogue that now supports their success literally rewires their automatic responses to financial possibilities. Your subconscious mind operates like a sophisticated autopilot system, constantly making micro-decisions that shape your path through each day. When this system is programmed with abundance-focused beliefs and imagery, it begins steering you toward different choices. You might spontaneously decide to attend a networking event, research a new investment strategy, or start a conversation with someone who could become a valuable connection. The transformation reveals itself through seemingly small actions that compound into significant results over time. Perhaps you finally organize your finances, create that business plan you've been postponing, or make the phone call you've been avoiding. These actions feel natural and inevitable when your internal programming supports them, rather than forced or uncomfortable as they might have felt before. Behind the scenes of this behavioral evolution lies a crucial element that many people underestimate: maintaining an open and receptive mindset toward unexpected opportunities. Your newly programmed subconscious becomes increasingly alert to possibilities that align with your wealth-focused imagery, but you must remain flexible enough to recognize opportunities that may arrive in unfamiliar forms. The journey requires understanding that external changes rarely match the speed of internal transformation. Your mindset might shift within weeks, but the external manifestation of that shift often unfolds over months or years. This timeline disparity challenges many people who expect immediate results from their mental programming efforts. Patience becomes a strategic advantage rather than passive waiting. During the apparent gap between internal change and external results, you're actually laying the groundwork for more substantial and lasting success. Each day, you maintain your new mental patterns. You're strengthening the foundation that will support whatever level of prosperity you eventually achieve. The hidden truth about sustainable wealth creation is that it requires this kind of internal preparation. People who suddenly acquire money without the corresponding mindset often lose it quickly because their subconscious programming hasn't developed the capacity to maintain and multiply wealth effectively. Your patient commitment to mental transformation ensures that when opportunities do manifest, you'll be equipped to recognize, capitalize on, and sustain them. Your daily practice of affirmations, visualization, and conscious thought direction creates momentum that builds gradually but persistently. Some days the progress feels obvious, while other days it seems invisible. Both experiences are normal parts of a process that's reshaping not just your thinking, but your entire approach to financial decision-making and opportunity recognition. Now, I want to reveal how this internal transformation begins creating what appears to be external coincidences and synchronicities, because understanding this mechanism helps explain why some people seem to live charmed financial lives while others struggle despite working equally hard. Write in the comments, building momentum, if you're committed to this gradual but powerful transformation process. What most people don't realize is that their beliefs function like invisible architects, constantly designing and redesigning their financial reality. Every belief you hold about money, success, and your own capabilities operates as a set of instructions that your subconscious follows with unwavering loyalty. Unlike your conscious mind, which questions and analyzes, your subconscious simply executes whatever programming it receives, treating limiting beliefs with the same dedication it would apply to empowering ones. This execution happens automatically beneath your conscious awareness, influencing decisions you might attribute to logic or intuition. When someone believes deep down that people like me don't become wealthy, their subconscious begins filtering opportunities through that belief system. Promising investments seem too risky, networking events feel uncomfortable, and ambitious goals get dismissed before they're fully considered. The impact becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that operates so smoothly people rarely recognize it's happening. Your belief system literally shapes what you notice in your environment, how you interpret events, and which actions feel natural versus forced. Someone programmed with scarcity beliefs will unconsciously find reasons why opportunities won't work, while someone with abundance programming will naturally focus on how they might succeed. Behind the scenes of your daily decisions, your beliefs are working like a sophisticated filtering system. They determine which possibilities your mind presents to your conscious awareness and which ones get dismissed before you even consider them. This filtering process explains why two people can encounter identical opportunities yet have completely different responses. Their belief systems are highlighting different aspects of the same situation. Revelation becomes particularly striking when you examine how beliefs influence your relationship with money itself. If you've internalized messages suggesting that money is somehow corrupting or that financial success requires sacrificing your values, your subconscious will create internal resistance whenever you approach greater prosperity. You might self-sabotage just as success becomes within reach, or find yourself making decisions that maintain familiar financial limitations. This internal contradiction creates what feels like an invisible ceiling on your financial growth. You push against it consciously, while your subconscious programming simultaneously pulls you back toward familiar territory. The struggle feels external: bad timing, difficult markets, unreasonable people. But the real battle is happening between conflicting belief systems within your own mind. The transformation begins when you recognize that these beliefs aren't permanent fixtures of your personality. They're learned programs that can be systematically updated. Your current financial situation isn't a reflection of your inherent worth or capabilities, but rather the external manifestation of your dominant internal beliefs about what's possible and what you deserve. Breaking free from scarcity programming requires more than just positive thinking or temporary motivation. It demands a fundamental shift in your core operating system, replacing deep-seated assumptions about limitation with new beliefs that support expansion and growth. This process challenges you to question ideas you may have never examined, despite their profound influence on your financial decisions. The journey involves recognizing that your current beliefs were often formed during childhood or periods of financial stress, when your understanding of money and success was limited. These early impressions became the foundation for more complex belief structures that continue operating today, even though your circumstances and capabilities have likely changed dramatically since then. Now, I want to explore exactly how these belief systems maintain their grip on your financial reality and reveal the specific techniques for identifying and transforming even the most stubborn limiting patterns that might be operating invisibly in your subconscious mind. Write in the comments, "Ready to examine my beliefs," if you're prepared to look honestly at what might be holding you back. The transformation of your belief system requires more than simply identifying what needs to change. You must actively install new programming through deliberate and consistent mental practice. This replacement process works similarly to updating software on your computer, except the installation happens through repetition, emotion, and unwavering consistency rather than a simple download. When you begin declaring, "I deserve wealth," or "money flows to me easily," you're essentially offering your subconscious a new set of operating instructions. Initially, these statements might feel foreign or even uncomfortable, especially if they contradict years of contrary programming. This resistance is normal and actually indicates that you're beginning to challenge deeply embedded patterns that have been limiting your financial potential. The power behind this reprogramming lies not in the words themselves, but in the emotional intensity and genuine conviction you bring to each repetition. Your subconscious responds most strongly to information that carries emotional weight. When you speak these new beliefs with passion, gratitude, and authentic feeling, you're communicating in the language your subconscious understands most clearly. Think of each emotionally charged affirmation as a seed planted with intention and care. The emotion acts like water and sunlight, providing the energy necessary for these new beliefs to take root and eventually flourish. Without genuine feeling behind your words, affirmations become merely intellectual exercises that create little lasting change in your mental programming. The revelation becomes particularly powerful when you realize that your current emotional relationship with money was also learned through repetition and feeling. Perhaps you experienced financial stress as a child, creating emotional associations between money and anxiety. Or maybe you heard repeated messages about money being scarce or difficult to obtain, accompanied by the emotions of frustration or worry from the adults around you. Your new programming works by gradually replacing these old emotional associations with more empowering ones. Each time you declare your worthiness of wealth while genuinely feeling grateful, confident, and excited, you're creating competing neural pathways that can eventually override the limiting patterns established earlier in your life. The process requires consistency because your subconscious gives more weight to information it receives. Repeatedly over time, sporadic positive affirmations surrounded by constant negative self-talk won't create lasting change. However, when you commit to daily practice of emotionally charged positive declarations, you begin shifting the balance toward more supportive internal programming. Behind the scenes of this conscious reprogramming, your subconscious begins testing these new beliefs against your daily experiences. Initially, it might resist or create situations that seem to contradict your new affirmations. This testing phase challenges your commitment to the new programming and determines whether these beliefs will become permanent additions to your mental operating system. The journey demands patience with yourself as you navigate this internal transition. Some days, the new beliefs feel natural and inspiring, while other days, the old patterns resurface with surprising strength. Both experiences are normal parts of a process that's gradually but systematically rewiring how you think about and respond to financial opportunities. Your conviction deepens as you continue this practice, and eventually these empowering beliefs begin influencing your behavior in subtle but significant ways. You might find yourself speaking more confidently in financial discussions, considering opportunities you previously dismissed, or making decisions from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. Now, I want to examine how this internal belief transformation begins creating tangible changes in your external circumstances, because understanding this connection helps explain why some people seem to effortlessly attract financial opportunities, while others struggle despite having similar skills and knowledge. Write in the comments, installing new programming, if you're ready to commit to this daily practice of emotional affirmations. The moment you begin replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones, you enter a critical phase where your mental environment becomes the determining factor in your success. This internal atmosphere either supports your new programming or undermines it through the subtle but persistent influence of doubt and fear. These emotions don't just feel uncomfortable, they actively interfere with the neural pathways you're trying to establish. Doubt operates like static interference on a radio signal. Even when you're consciously affirming abundance and visualizing success, underlying skepticism creates competing messages that confuse your subconscious programming. Your mind receives mixed signals, part of you declaring worthiness, while another part questions whether any of this will actually work. This internal conflict dilutes the power of your positive programming and slows the transformation process. The hidden truth about confidence is that it functions as an accelerator for subconscious change. When you approach your mental reprogramming with genuine faith in the process, you create optimal conditions for new beliefs to take root. Confidence doesn't mean blind optimism or ignoring practical concerns. It means maintaining trust in your mind's capacity to reshape your reality while remaining open to opportunities that align with your new programming. This openness becomes crucial because your transformed beliefs often manifest through unexpected channels. The promotion, investment opportunity, or business idea that changes your financial trajectory might arrive in a form you hadn't anticipated. If doubt has made you rigid in your expectations or fearful of taking calculated risks, you might miss the very opportunities your new programming is designed to help you recognize. Daily visualization serves as both a programming tool and a confidence builder, creating a feedback loop that strengthens your entire transformation process. When you consistently imagine yourself living abundantly, feeling the emotions, making the decisions, enjoying the lifestyle, you're essentially rehearsing success in vivid detail. This mental rehearsal builds familiarity with prosperity, making it feel less foreign when opportunities for real advancement appear. The practice becomes most effective when you engage multiple senses and emotions simultaneously. Rather than simply picturing material success, you experience the satisfaction of making wise financial decisions, the gratitude of helping others through your prosperity, and the peace of mind that comes with genuine security. These emotional associations create powerful neural connections that influence your subconscious interpretation of opportunities. Behind the scenes of this visualization practice, your brain begins preparing for the scenarios you've been mentally rehearsing. Your confidence in financial discussions increases because you've already imagined similar conversations countless times. Your willingness to pursue opportunities grows because success feels familiar rather than impossible. This preparation happens automatically as your visualization sessions program your subconscious with detailed blueprints for prosperity. The transformation accelerates when your daily mental imagery becomes so vivid and consistent that your subconscious begins treating these visualized experiences as memories of success rather than fantasies about the future. This shift in internal reference points fundamentally changes how you evaluate opportunities, make decisions, and present yourself in situations that could impact your financial growth. Your visualization practice also serves as a daily reminder of your commitment to change, reinforcing the new identity you're developing and keeping your attention focused on possibility rather than limitation. Now, I want to explore how this internal work begins creating what most people would call coincidences and synchronicities in your external world, because understanding this mechanism reveals why some individuals seem to live charmed financial lives while others struggle despite similar efforts. Write in the comments, faith over fear, if you're choosing confidence over doubt in this transformation process. The gap between internal transformation and external results closes when you begin aligning your daily actions with your newly programmed beliefs. This alignment isn't about forcing dramatic changes overnight, but rather noticing how your reprogrammed subconscious naturally begins influencing your choices, responses, and behaviors in situations that could impact your financial future. Your transformed beliefs don't exist in isolation. They actively reshape how you move through the world. When you've genuinely internalized that you deserve prosperity, you might find yourself negotiating more confidently, asking for what you're worth, or pursuing opportunities you previously considered beyond your reach. These behavioral shifts happen organically as your subconscious programming begins expressing itself through concrete actions. The bridge between mental work and material results becomes visible through what appears to be improved intuition about financial decisions. In reality, your reprogrammed subconscious is now filtering information through abundance-focused beliefs rather than scarcity-based assumptions. This new filtering system highlights different aspects of opportunities, making profitable possibilities more obvious, while de-emphasizing limiting factors that might have previously dominated your attention. Behind the scenes of this behavioral evolution, your visualization practice transforms from passive daydreaming into active mental rehearsal for real-world scenarios. When you consistently imagine yourself making confident financial decisions, your brain develops familiarity with those mental states and begins accessing them automatically when similar situations arise in reality. The process works because your subconscious mind treats vivid, emotionally charged mental imagery as genuine experience. Each detailed visualization session essentially provides your brain with reference points for confidence, success, and prosperity. These reference points become the foundation for how you evaluate opportunities, interact with potential collaborators, and present yourself in financially significant situations. Your visualization practice becomes most powerful when you focus not just on end results, but on the process of achieving them. Instead of only imagining yourself wealthy, visualize yourself making the specific decisions, having the conversations, and taking the actions that lead to prosperity. This process-focused imagery programs your subconscious with practical blueprints for success rather than just fantasies about outcomes. The transformation accelerates when you recognize that every visualization session is actually a form of conscious creation. You're deliberately programming your subconscious with detailed instructions for how to recognize, evaluate, and respond to wealth-building opportunities. This isn't mystical thinking, but practical psychology applied to financial success. Your daily mental imagery begins influencing your energy, presence, and communication style in ways that others respond to, often without consciously understanding why. People tend to trust and collaborate more readily with individuals who carry themselves with quiet confidence and seem genuinely comfortable discussing financial opportunities and success. The journey requires maintaining consistency between your internal programming and your external choices. If you're visualizing abundance while consistently making scarcity-based decisions, you're sending contradictory signals that weaken your overall transformation. However, when your actions begin reflecting your new beliefs, you create powerful momentum that reinforces the entire process. Now, I want to reveal how this internal-external alignment begins creating what most people interpret as luck or coincidence. Because understanding this mechanism helps explain why some individuals consistently find themselves in the right place at the right time for financial opportunities. Write in the comments, aligning actions with beliefs, if you're ready to bridge the gap between your inner work and outer results. What makes this mental programming so remarkably effective lies in a fundamental characteristic of human consciousness that most people never fully appreciate. Your subconscious operates without the analytical filters that help your conscious mind distinguish between direct experience and vivid imagination. When you create detailed, emotionally rich mental scenarios of financial success, your brain processes these visualizations through the same neural networks it uses for actual memories and real-world experiences. This phenomenon explains why professional athletes spend hours mentally rehearsing their performances, why surgeons visualize complex procedures before entering the operating room, and why successful entrepreneurs often credit their ability to envision their success long before it materialized. The brain treats intense, repeated mental imagery as a form of experience, creating familiarity and confidence that translates into improved real-world performance. Your transformation accelerates when you understand that each detailed visualization session is essentially a training exercise for your subconscious mind. Every time you imagine yourself confidently making a profitable investment, negotiating a beneficial deal, or managing substantial wealth, you're providing your brain with reference points it can access when similar situations arise in reality. The process becomes most powerful when you engage multiple sensory channels simultaneously during your visualization practice. Rather than simply seeing yourself in a prosperous situation, you experience the texture of success, the feeling of confidence in your posture, the sound of respect in people's voices when they discuss business with you, even the specific sensations of signing important documents or shaking hands on profitable agreements. Behind the scenes of this multisensory mental rehearsal, your brain begins developing neural pathways associated with financial confidence and success. These pathways strengthen with each visualization session, gradually becoming your default responses when opportunities present themselves. What once felt intimidating or impossible starts feeling familiar and achievable because your subconscious has already rehearsed these scenarios hundreds of times. The effectiveness of this approach depends on creating visualization sessions that feel authentic rather than fantastical. Your subconscious responds most strongly to mental imagery that represents meaningful progress from your current position rather than dramatic leaps that feel implausible. Focus on scenarios where you're making decisions and taking actions that align with your values while moving toward greater prosperity. Your daily practice becomes a bridge between your current reality and your desired future, with each session programming your subconscious to recognize opportunities that match your visualized scenarios. This recognition happens automatically as your reprogrammed mind begins filtering daily experiences through the lens of possibility rather than limitation. The journey requires consistency because sporadic visualization sessions compete with the constant stream of daily experiences that might reinforce old patterns. However, when you maintain regular practice, your mental rehearsals begin influencing how you interpret events, evaluate opportunities, and respond to financial conversations throughout your day. Your visualization practice also serves as a form of emotional conditioning, associating feelings of confidence, gratitude, and excitement with financial scenarios that might previously have triggered anxiety or overwhelm. This emotional reprogramming proves crucial when real opportunities arise because you respond from a place of preparedness rather than fear. Now, I want to examine how this internal preparation begins creating tangible changes in your external circumstances through a mechanism that connects your transformed consciousness with the world around you in ways that often surprise people experiencing this transformation. Write in the comments, "Training my subconscious," if you're ready to make visualization a consistent daily practice. The emotional component of your visualization practice operates as an amplifier that dramatically increases the impact of your mental programming. When you accompany your visualized scenarios with genuine feelings of gratitude, excitement, and confidence, you're not just creating mental images, you're programming your subconscious with the exact emotional states that successful people naturally access when making profitable decisions. These emotions function like a signal boost for your mental transformation, creating stronger neural pathways and more vivid subconscious impressions than visualization alone could achieve. Your brain associates specific emotional states with specific types of experiences, so when you consistently pair feelings of gratitude and enthusiasm with images of financial success, you're training your subconscious to access these empowering emotions automatically whenever real opportunities present themselves. The impact extends beyond internal programming into how you present yourself to the world. People who genuinely feel worthy of success, grateful for opportunities, and enthusiastic about their financial future carry themselves differently. Their energy becomes magnetic in ways that influence others' willingness to collaborate, invest, or share valuable information. This isn't mystical thinking. It's recognizing how emotional states affect body language, vocal tone, and overall presence in ways that create tangible results. Behind the scenes of your daily emotional conditioning, your subconscious begins developing what feels like improved intuition about financial decisions. In reality, you're accessing emotional states associated with confidence and abundance rather than the anxiety and scarcity that might have previously dominated your approach to money matters. This emotional shift changes how you evaluate opportunities, negotiate agreements, and respond to financial challenges. Your daily practice becomes a form of emotional rehearsal for real-world success scenarios. Each time you experience gratitude while visualizing prosperity, you're strengthening your capacity to feel genuinely appreciative when actual opportunities arise, rather than responding with suspicion or overwhelm. This emotional preparation proves crucial because opportunities often appear during moments when quick, confident decisions make the difference between success and missed chances. However, this internal work reaches its full potential only when combined with concrete external action. Your visualization and emotional programming create optimal mental conditions for recognizing and capitalizing on opportunities, but they cannot replace the necessity of actually moving toward your goals through practical steps. Think of your subconscious as an incredibly sophisticated navigation system that can identify the best routes to your destination, but you still must do the driving. The bridge between Internal transformation and external results becomes visible when your reprogrammed subconscious begins guiding you toward actions you might not have considered before. You might find yourself researching investment strategies, attending networking events, or having conversations about potential collaborations. These impulses feel natural because they arise from your new internal programming rather than forced effort against resistant beliefs. Your journey requires maintaining trust in the process even when external changes don't immediately match the speed of your internal transformation. This patience isn't passive waiting. It's active confidence that continues taking appropriate steps while remaining receptive to opportunities that might arrive through unexpected channels. Your visualization has essentially placed an order with your subconscious, and now you must remain alert and responsive to how that order gets fulfilled. The transformation accelerates when you recognize that each action you take in alignment with your new programming sends a powerful signal to your subconscious that you're genuinely committed to change, not just daydreaming about it. Now, I want to explore how this combination of mental programming and aligned action begins creating what most people would call synchronicities or coincidences, because understanding this mechanism reveals why some individuals consistently find themselves positioned for financial breakthroughs. Write in the comments, emotions plus action, if you're ready to combine your inner work with outer movement toward your goals. The journey toward financial transformation inevitably leads to a confrontation with your most deeply embedded mental patterns, those subtle but powerful beliefs that operate like invisible guardians, quietly preventing you from reaching levels of prosperity that might otherwise be within your grasp. These limiting beliefs don't announce themselves with obvious negativity. Instead, they disguise themselves as logical reasoning, practical concerns, or simply the way things are. What makes these beliefs particularly insidious is how they've woven themselves into your identity over years or even decades of reinforcement. When you automatically think, "That's not for people like me," upon encountering an investment opportunity, or when you feel uncomfortable discussing larger financial goals, you're encountering the influence of programming that was installed long before you consciously decided what you wanted to achieve financially. The revelation becomes unsettling when you realize that most of these limiting patterns weren't originally your own ideas. They arrived through childhood observations of how adults in your life related to money, through repeated exposure to cultural messages about wealth and worthiness, or through specific experiences that your developing mind interpreted as universal truths about financial possibility. Perhaps you witnessed your parents arguing about money and concluded that financial stress was inevitable in adult life. Maybe you heard repeated messages suggesting that wealthy people were somehow less virtuous, creating internal conflict between your desire for success and your sense of moral identity. Or possibly you experienced disappointment when early financial goals didn't materialize as quickly as expected, leading your subconscious to develop protective mechanisms against future, unrealistic expectations. Behind the scenes of your daily decision-making, these inherited beliefs continue operating with remarkable consistency. They influence which opportunities you notice, how you interpret financial information, and what level of success feels realistic versus foolishly ambitious. The beliefs that once protected a young mind from disappointment now limit an adult's capacity for growth and achievement. The transformation process requires recognizing that these patterns represent interpretations rather than immutable facts about reality. Your current financial limitations aren't reflections of some inherent inadequacy or cosmic judgment about your worthiness. They're the external manifestation of internal programming that can be systematically updated once you identify it clearly. This identification process often surprises people because limiting beliefs rarely present themselves as obviously negative statements. Instead, they appear as reasonable caution, practical planning, or simple acceptance of realistic expectations. The belief that steady employment is safer than entrepreneurship might protect you from certain risks while simultaneously preventing you from exploring opportunities that could dramatically improve your financial trajectory. Your journey toward awareness involves learning to distinguish between genuine practical wisdom and limiting beliefs, masquerading as prudent thinking. True wisdom considers both risks and rewards objectively, while limiting beliefs automatically emphasize obstacles while minimizing possibilities. When you find yourself immediately dismissing opportunities without thorough consideration, you're often encountering the influence of protective programming rather than making purely rational assessments. The process becomes particularly challenging because these beliefs feel like integral parts of your personality rather than learned patterns that could be changed. When someone suggests a financial goal that conflicts with your embedded programming, the resistance feels like common sense rather than psychological conditioning. Now, I want to reveal the specific techniques for identifying these hidden patterns and show you how to trace their origins back to the original experiences that created them, because understanding where limiting beliefs come from is often the key to dissolving their power over your financial future. Write in the comments, "Ready to examine my programming," if you're prepared to look honestly at beliefs that might be invisibly shaping your financial reality. The process of dismantling limiting beliefs begins with a simple but profoundly challenging question. Is this actually true, or have I simply accepted it as true? This inquiry cuts through decades of unexamined assumptions and forces you to distinguish between verified reality and inherited interpretations that may no longer serve your growth. When you catch yourself thinking, "I'm not good with money," or "success requires sacrificing personal relationships," pause and examine the evidence supporting these statements. Often you'll discover that what feels like solid fact is actually a conclusion drawn from limited experiences or second-hand information you absorbed without critical evaluation. The belief that prevented a 20-year-old from taking financial risks might be completely inappropriate for someone with decades of additional life experience and wisdom. This questioning process reveals how many financial limitations exist only in perception rather than reality. The investigation becomes particularly revealing when you trace these beliefs back to their origins. Perhaps your cautious approach to money stems from a single financial disappointment that occurred under completely different circumstances than your current situation. Maybe your skepticism about business opportunities originated from observing someone else's failed venture, yet you've unconsciously applied their specific mistakes as universal warnings about entrepreneurial risk. Your transformation accelerates when you begin deliberately curating the mental environment that shapes your daily thinking. Just as you wouldn't expect to develop physical fitness while consuming only junk food, you can't build a prosperity mindset while feeding your consciousness exclusively with scarcity-focused content. The information you consume, the conversations you engage in, and the communities you participate in all contribute to the mental atmosphere that either supports or undermines your wealth-building efforts. Behind the scenes of your daily media consumption, your subconscious absorbs messages about what's possible, what you deserve, and what constitutes realistic expectations for someone in your circumstances. If your primary sources of financial information emphasize economic uncertainty, market crashes, and the dangers of taking calculated risks, your mental programming naturally develops defensive patterns that prioritize protection over growth. The shift becomes powerful when you consciously choose to surround yourself with evidence that abundance is possible, that financial education can be acquired, and that people from backgrounds similar to yours have successfully improved their circumstances. This isn't about ignoring practical concerns or risks, but rather balancing cautious wisdom with exposure to possibility and proven strategies for advancement. Your journey requires recognizing that the people closest to you, while well-intentioned, may unconsciously reinforce the same limiting beliefs you're working to overcome. Friends and family members who struggle financially often project their own fears and limitations onto your aspirations, disguising their discouragement as protective concern. Their warnings about getting your hopes too high or being realistic about your situation may reflect their own unexamined beliefs rather than objective assessments of your potential. Creating a supportive environment sometimes means finding new sources of encouragement and information while maintaining loving relationships with people whose mindsets differ from your evolving perspective. This balance requires developing the skill to receive caring concern without absorbing limiting expectations, and to share your growth journey with people who can celebrate your progress rather than question your ambitions. The transformation deepens when you begin attracting relationships and opportunities that align with your expanding vision of what's possible, creating a feedback loop that reinforces your new programming through external validation and practical results. Now, I want to examine how this environmental shift begins creating momentum in your external circumstances, because understanding this mechanism reveals why changing your mental input often leads to surprisingly rapid changes in your material output. Write in the comments, questioning everything, if you're ready, to challenge beliefs you've never examined before. The transformation of deeply embedded mental patterns unfolds like the changing of seasons, gradually, sometimes imperceptibly, but with inevitable progression when you maintain consistent effort. Your old limiting beliefs didn't develop overnight, and they won't disappear instantly either. There will be days when familiar doubts resurface with surprising strength, making you question whether any of this mental work is actually creating change. These moments of apparent regression aren't failures. They're opportunities to strengthen your new programming through conscious choice. Each time you recognize an old limiting pattern and deliberately replace it with an empowering alternative, you're exercising what could be called your mental muscles. Like physical fitness, this internal strength develops through repeated practice rather than single dramatic efforts. The journey requires understanding that your subconscious mind tested every belief it currently holds through repetition and emotional reinforcement. Your new beliefs must undergo the same process to become equally embedded and automatic. This testing phase can feel discouraging because external circumstances might not immediately reflect your internal work, creating doubt about whether the process is actually working. Behind the scenes of this apparent delay, your subconscious is gradually adjusting countless micro-responses that will eventually compound into noticeable behavioral changes. You might find yourself slightly more confident in financial conversations, marginally more willing to investigate opportunities, or subtly more comfortable with the idea of increasing your income. These small shifts accumulate into larger transformations over time. Your patience during this period isn't passive waiting, it's active trust that continues implementing your new programming while remaining alert to opportunities that align with your evolving mindset. This receptive awareness becomes crucial because your transformed beliefs often manifest through what appears to be inspired action rather than forced effort. Inspired action differs fundamentally from the grinding determination that characterizes most approaches to financial improvement. Instead of pushing against resistance or forcing yourself through uncomfortable strategies, inspired action feels like a natural response to clear internal guidance. It's the difference between struggling upstream and allowing a powerful current to carry you toward your destination while you navigate skillfully. This internal guidance system operates through subtle but persistent impulses that suggest specific steps aligned with your financial objectives. You might feel drawn to research a particular investment strategy, attend an event where you wouldn't normally go, or reach out to someone you haven't contacted in years. These impulses often arise without obvious logical reasoning, yet they consistently lead towards circumstances that support your wealth-building goals. The transformation becomes visible when you learn to distinguish between inspiration and compulsion, between genuine guidance and anxiety-driven activity. Inspired action typically carries a sense of rightness and flow, even when it involves stepping outside your comfort zone. There's often an element of excitement or curiosity rather than the heavy feeling that accompanies tasks you're forcing yourself to complete. Your ability to recognize and respond to inspired guidance develops through the same mental practices that reprogram your limiting beliefs. As your subconscious becomes aligned with abundance rather than scarcity, it naturally begins highlighting opportunities and suggesting actions that were invisible when your mental programming was focused on limitations and obstacles. Now, I want to explore how this internal guidance system begins creating what most people would call coincidences or synchronicities in your external world, because understanding this connection reveals why some individuals seem to effortlessly attract financial opportunities while others work harder but achieve less. Write in the comments, "Following my inner guidance," if you're ready to trust and act on those subtle impulses that point toward your financial growth. The distinction between fear-driven action and genuinely inspired movement creates one of the most significant turning points in your journey toward financial transformation. When you act from fear, rushing to escape current circumstances, desperately grasping at opportunities or forcing strategies that feel uncomfortable, you're operating from scarcity programming that often leads to poor decisions and unsustainable results. Inspired action emerges from an entirely different internal landscape. It carries a sense of rightness and natural flow, even when it involves risk or uncertainty. This type of movement doesn't arise from desperation to fix something wrong with your current situation, but from excitement about something attractive in your future potential. The energy behind inspired action feels expansive rather than contractive, curious rather than anxious. Your expanded awareness begins recognizing patterns and connections that were previously invisible to your scarcity-focused attention. When your consciousness operates from abundance programming, you naturally notice opportunities embedded within apparent challenges, potential collaborations within casual conversations, and profitable possibilities within everyday situations that others might overlook entirely. This enhanced perception isn't mystical. It's the practical result of having reprogrammed your mental filtering system to highlight different aspects of your environment. Where fear-based thinking sees obstacles and reasons to avoid risk, abundance-focused consciousness recognizes resources, possibilities, and pathways toward your objectives. The same external circumstances appear completely different depending on which internal lens you're using to interpret them. The transformation becomes sustainable when you develop a daily practice of consciously choosing your mental state before engaging with the world. Rather than allowing random thoughts and external circumstances to dictate your internal environment, you deliberately create the conditions that support inspired guidance and clear decision-making. Your morning routine becomes crucial because the mental state you cultivate at the beginning of each day tends to influence how you interpret and respond to everything that follows. Taking time to review your objectives, visualize potential actions, and align your emotional state with your desired outcomes essentially programs your subconscious to be alert for opportunities that match your intentions. The process requires developing trust in subtle internal signals that might initially feel uncertain or unfamiliar. Inspired guidance rarely arrives as dramatic revelations or obvious instructions. More often, it appears as gentle impulses to make a particular phone call, investigate a specific opportunity, or have a conversation you might otherwise avoid. Learning to act on these subtle nudges without demanding logical explanations builds your capacity to navigate by internal compass rather than external validation. Your journey becomes more effective when you focus on consistent, small steps. Rather than waiting for perfect conditions or complete certainty, inspired action often requires moving forward with partial information, trusting that clarity will develop as you advance, rather than needing to see the entire path before taking the first step. This approach challenges the common belief that significant financial changes require dramatic actions or comprehensive strategies. In reality, wealth often builds through a series of seemingly small decisions that compound over time, guided by an internal wisdom that recognizes promising directions, even when the ultimate destination isn't completely clear. Now, I want to examine how this daily practice of inspired action begins creating momentum that attracts increasingly significant opportunities, because understanding this amplification effect reveals why small, consistent steps often produce disproportionately large results in wealth building. Write in the comments, "Trusting my inner compass," if you're ready to act on inspiration rather than desperation. Your daily practice of inspired action gains tremendous power when combined with what might be the most underestimated wealth-building tool available: genuine gratitude for what already exists in your life. This isn't about forcing positive feelings or pretending difficulties don't exist. It's about recognizing that your current relationship with appreciation directly influences your capacity to recognize and attract additional abundance. When you genuinely appreciate what you have, you're essentially training your attention to focus on evidence of sufficiency rather than scarcity. This shift in focus creates a profound change in your mental environment because your brain naturally seeks more of whatever receives your consistent attention. If you habitually notice what's missing or inadequate, your subconscious becomes expert at finding additional examples of lack. Conversely, when you regularly acknowledge abundance already present in your life, your awareness becomes increasingly skilled at recognizing opportunities for expansion. The transformation occurs because gratitude fundamentally alters your emotional state, moving you from feelings associated with need and desperation toward emotions connected with satisfaction and possibility. This emotional shift influences how you present yourself in financial conversations, how confidently you pursue opportunities, and how others respond to your energy and presence. Behind the scenes of this emotional conditioning, something remarkable happens to your decision-making process. When you operate from appreciation rather than anxiety, you make choices from a position of strength rather than weakness. Instead of grasping at opportunities because you fear missing out, you evaluate possibilities from a centered place that naturally gravitates toward genuinely beneficial arrangements. Your gratitude practice becomes most effective when you expand it beyond material possessions to include experiences, relationships, capabilities, and opportunities that might previously have gone unnoticed. Perhaps you appreciate having the freedom to learn new skills, the health to pursue your goals, or access to information that previous generations couldn't imagine. This broader appreciation creates a more comprehensive sense of abundance that influences your entire approach to wealth building. The daily ritual of conscious appreciation also serves as a powerful counterbalance to the constant stream of media messages emphasizing what you lack or should fear about your financial future. Instead of allowing external voices to define your relationship with money and success, you actively choose to focus on evidence of progress, possibility, and existing resources. Your practice deepens when you begin appreciating the process of transformation itself, acknowledging small improvements in your financial awareness, celebrating increased confidence in money conversations, or recognizing how your relationship with opportunities has evolved. This meta-gratitude reinforces your commitment to continued growth while building momentum through positive emotional associations with your wealth-building journey. The impact extends into your interpersonal relationships as people naturally respond more favorably to individuals who carry an energy of appreciation rather than complaint or desperation. This shift in how others perceive and interact with you can open doors to collaborations, referrals, and opportunities that wouldn't have appeared when your dominant emotional state reflected scarcity or dissatisfaction. Your transformation accelerates when you realize that gratitude isn't just a nice addition to your wealth-building strategy, it's a fundamental component that influences every other aspect of your financial development by creating the optimal internal conditions for recognizing and capitalizing on opportunities. Now, I want to explore how this foundation of appreciation combines with your other mental practices to create what successful people often describe as an almost magnetic quality that seems to draw opportunities toward them naturally. Write in the comments, "Grateful for the journey," if you're ready to make appreciation a cornerstone of your wealth-building practice. Your foundation of gratitude and inspired action creates the optimal conditions for developing what might be your most valuable wealth-building resource: access to your own intuitive guidance system. This internal compass operates beyond the limitations of logical analysis, picking up subtle signals about opportunities, timing, and decisions that your conscious mind might overlook or dismiss as insignificant. The development of intuitive decision-making becomes crucial, because the most profitable opportunities often appear in forms that don't match conventional financial wisdom or obvious logical patterns. Your intuition can detect promising possibilities that exist beneath the surface of apparently ordinary situations, relationships, or circumstances that rational analysis might quickly reject or ignore entirely. Your subconscious mind processes vastly more information than your conscious awareness can handle, continuously monitoring patterns, connections, and possibilities that remain invisible to deliberate thinking. When you learn to access this deeper intelligence through intuitive guidance, you're essentially tapping into a sophisticated analytical system that operates beyond the speed and scope of conscious reasoning. However, developing reliable access to intuitive guidance requires learning to distinguish between genuine inner wisdom and the mental noise created by fear, anxiety, and old programming. This distinction becomes absolutely critical for financial success because fear-based impulses often masquerade as practical caution while actually steering you away from beneficial opportunities. Fear typically arrives with a heavy, contractive feeling, accompanied by mental chatter that emphasizes everything that could go wrong. It generates scenarios of failure, rejection, or loss, while rarely offering constructive alternatives. When fear influences your financial decisions, you tend to focus on avoiding potential problems rather than recognizing potential benefits, creating a defensive mindset that limits growth and opportunity recognition. True intuitive guidance feels distinctly different. It often carries a sense of quiet certainty or natural rightness, even when pointing toward actions that involve uncertainty or challenge. Genuine intuition doesn't usually come with elaborate justifications or anxious mental commentary. Instead, it presents itself as a simple knowing or subtle impulse that feels aligned with your deeper objectives and values. The transformation in your decision-making becomes remarkable when you develop confidence in this internal guidance system. You begin making choices that feel right before you can fully explain why they're beneficial, yet these decisions consistently lead to positive outcomes that logical planning might have missed entirely. Your intuitive development accelerates through the same practices that strengthen your other mental abilities. Regular quiet time for reflection, consistent visualization work, and maintaining the emotional states associated with confidence and appreciation. When your mind isn't cluttered with anxiety or constantly analyzing potential problems, you create space for subtler forms of guidance to emerge and be recognized. The journey requires patience because intuitive development happens gradually through experience rather than sudden insight. Each time you act on genuine inner guidance and experience positive results, you strengthen your confidence in this internal compass while becoming more skilled at recognizing its signals. Your relationship with financial opportunities transforms when you learn to combine practical analysis with intuitive assessment, using both logical evaluation and inner guidance to make decisions that align with your long-term wealth-building objectives. Now, I want to examine how this integration of rational thinking and intuitive wisdom creates what successful people often describe as having exceptional timing, consistently being in the right place at the right moment for breakthrough opportunities. Write in the comments, developing my inner compass. If you're ready to trust your intuitive guidance alongside logical analysis, the integration of logical thinking with intuitive wisdom reaches its full potential when fueled by genuine enthusiasm for your financial objectives. This emotional state operates as an amplifier that dramatically increases the effectiveness of all your other mental practices. Your affirmations carry more power, your visualizations feel more real, and your intuitive guidance becomes clearer and more reliable. Enthusiasm isn't just a pleasant feeling that makes the journey more enjoyable. It's a signal to your subconscious that you're genuinely committed to transformation rather than merely hoping for change. When you feel excited about your financial goals, your entire mental system aligns with creating those outcomes. Your brain becomes more alert to relevant opportunities, your energy becomes more magnetic to potential collaborators, and your persistence naturally increases when facing temporary obstacles. The difference between forced effort and enthusiastic pursuit becomes evident in how others respond to your energy. People naturally want to support, collaborate with, and refer opportunities to individuals who carry genuine excitement about their objectives rather than those who approach wealth building with grim determination or desperate need. Enthusiasm creates an attractive quality that opens doors through interpersonal connections that cold logic alone cannot access. Behind the scenes of this emotional transformation, your subconscious programming becomes more responsive and effective. The same affirmations that might feel mechanical when repeated without feeling become powerful programming tools when spoken with genuine enthusiasm. Your visualization sessions gain impact when accompanied by authentic excitement about the life you're creating, rather than anxiety about your current circumstances. However, maintaining consistent enthusiasm for financial goals requires connecting those objectives to something deeper than personal acquisition or status enhancement. Surface-level motivations like wanting to impress others or prove your worth tend to generate temporary excitement that fades when challenges arise or progress seems slow. The transformation becomes sustainable when you identify the meaningful purpose behind your desire for wealth. Perhaps the freedom to help family members, the ability to support causes you care about, or the peace of mind that comes from genuine security. When your financial goals serve purposes larger than personal comfort or ego satisfaction, enthusiasm becomes renewable rather than depleting. Your deeper purpose also provides resilience during inevitable periods of uncertainty or apparent setbacks. When challenges arise, you can reconnect with the meaningful reasons behind your objectives rather than questioning whether the effort is worthwhile. This connection to purpose transforms temporary obstacles from reasons to quit into reasons to persist and find alternative approaches. The journey requires regular reflection on what truly motivates your desire for financial improvement. Perhaps you want to model success for your children, create jobs for others through business development, or gain the resources necessary to pursue meaningful work, regardless of its immediate profitability. These deeper motivations generate the kind of sustained enthusiasm that carries you through the inevitable ups and downs of wealth building. Your enthusiasm also influences the quality of inspired action you take. When you're genuinely excited about your objectives, the steps toward those goals feel energizing rather than exhausting, creating positive momentum that builds over time rather than burning out through forced effort. Now, I want to reveal how this combination of enthusiasm and meaningful purpose creates a powerful magnetic effect that begins attracting the specific people, opportunities, and circumstances needed to support your wealth-building journey in ways that often surprise people experiencing this transformation. Write in the comments, "Connected to my deeper purpose," if you've identified the meaningful reasons behind your financial goals. Your enthusiasm and connection to meaningful purpose create the internal foundation for wealth attraction. But this internal work reaches its full potential only when supported by deliberate choices about your external environment. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, and the physical spaces you occupy all contribute to either reinforcing your new prosperity mindset or subtly undermining it through constant exposure to limiting perspectives. Your transformation accelerates dramatically when you recognize that every conversation, every piece of media, and every social interaction is either programming your subconscious toward abundance or toward scarcity. There's no neutral input. You're constantly absorbing messages that shape your expectations, influence your confidence levels, and affect your willingness to pursue opportunities that could advance your financial position. Behind the scenes of your daily interactions, your brain naturally mirrors the energy and beliefs of the people around you. If your closest relationships involve constant complaints about economic difficulties, discussions that emphasize financial limitations, or attitudes that view wealth with suspicion or resentment, your subconscious absorbs these perspectives regardless of your conscious intentions to think differently. The shift becomes powerful when you deliberately seek relationships and information sources that support your expanding vision of what's possible. This doesn't mean abandoning people you care about, but rather consciously balancing potentially limiting influences with exposure to individuals who think bigger, take calculated risks, and approach financial challenges with solution-focused thinking rather than problem-focused complaining. Your journey requires developing the skill to maintain your mental programming while remaining compassionate toward people whose mindsets differ from your evolving perspective. This balance allows you to preserve important relationships while protecting your developing prosperity consciousness from constant exposure to scarcity-based thinking. However, creating a supportive environment means nothing without the consistency and discipline to maintain your new mental practices regardless of external circumstances or internal resistance. Your enthusiasm will naturally fluctuate, your motivation will sometimes wane, and there will be days when your old limiting patterns feel more familiar and comfortable than your new empowering beliefs. Discipline becomes your bridge between inspiration and lasting transformation. It's the quality that keeps you practicing your affirmations when they feel mechanical, maintains your visualization routine when results aren't immediately visible, and sustains your inspired actions when progress seems slow or uncertain. The transformation deepens when you understand that discipline isn't about forcing yourself through unpleasant activities, but rather about choosing long-term benefits over immediate comfort. Each day, you maintain your mental programming despite feeling unmotivated. You're strengthening neural pathways that eventually make prosperity thinking feel natural rather than forced. Your consistency creates momentum that compounds over time, gradually shifting your default mental patterns from scarcity-focused to abundance-focused thinking. This shift happens so gradually that you might not notice it day to day, but over months, the cumulative effect creates profound changes in how you perceive opportunities, evaluate risks, and respond to financial challenges. Now, I want to explore how this foundation of consistent daily practice begins creating what successful people often describe as compound momentum, where small daily efforts begin producing increasingly significant results that seem to accelerate exponentially over time. Write in the comments, building daily momentum, if you're committed to maintaining consistent practice regardless of how you feel on any given day. Your consistent daily practice creates a foundation strong enough to handle one of the most challenging aspects of financial transformation, learning to work with negative emotions rather than being derailed by them. Fear, doubt, frustration, and anxiety will inevitably arise during your journey. But these emotions don't have to signal failure or become reasons to abandon your wealth-building efforts. The transformation in your relationship with challenging emotions begins when you recognize them as information rather than absolute truth. Fear about taking a calculated risk might actually be pointing toward areas where you need more research or preparation, rather than indicating that the opportunity should be avoided entirely. Doubt about your capabilities could be highlighting specific skills you need to develop, rather than confirming that success is impossible for someone like you. Your journey becomes more resilient when you learn to pause during emotional intensity and ask what these feelings are trying to communicate. Often, negative emotions arise because part of your mind is comparing your new ambitious goals with old programming that assumes limitation. This internal conflict generates discomfort, but it also signals that you're genuinely challenging limiting patterns rather than staying safely within familiar boundaries. Behind the scenes of this emotional transformation, you're developing what could be called emotional intelligence around money and success. Instead of being overwhelmed by anxiety when financial opportunities appear, you learn to recognize these feelings as natural responses to growth and change. Instead of interpreting frustration with slow progress as evidence that your approach isn't working, you understand it as a sign that your expectations might need adjustment. The process requires developing the skill to feel these emotions fully without allowing them to control your decisions. You can acknowledge fear while still taking appropriate action, experience doubt while maintaining commitment to your goals, and work through frustration while staying focused on long-term objectives rather than immediate results. Your relationship with challenging emotions becomes a source of strength when you realize that everyone who has achieved significant financial success has navigated similar internal challenges. The difference isn't that successful people don't experience fear or doubt. It's that they've learned to work with these emotions rather than being stopped by them. This emotional mastery becomes the final piece in what transforms you from someone who hopes for financial improvement into someone who embodies wealth, consciousness. When you can maintain clarity and purposeful action despite internal resistance, you've developed the psychological foundation that supports sustainable prosperity rather than temporary financial gains that might be lost during the next period of challenge. The integration of all these elements, reprogram beliefs, consistent visualization, inspired action, gratitude, intuitive guidance, supportive environment, and emotional mastery, creates what appears to others as an almost magnetic quality that naturally attracts opportunities, resources, and collaborations. This isn't mystical attraction, but the practical result of having aligned your internal state with your external objectives. When you understand how these internal elements work together, your reprogrammed beliefs, consistent visualization, emotional mastery, and inspired action, you create a powerful alignment that transforms your relationship with money and opportunity from the inside out. This isn't about forcing external changes through willpower alone, but about becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts and sustains the wealth you desire. The journey we've explored today represents more than just techniques for financial improvement. It's about recognizing and developing the sophisticated mental capabilities you already possess, then directing them toward creating the life you genuinely want, rather than simply accepting whatever circumstances happen to appear. Your transformation begins the moment you decide that your current financial reality reflects old programming rather than permanent limitations. From that decision point forward, every day becomes an opportunity to strengthen new patterns and move closer to the prosperity that's been waiting for your mind to catch up with your potential. If you've stayed with me through this entire exploration of consciousness and wealth creation, you're clearly someone who takes personal development seriously. The insights we've covered today are the foundation that successful people use to create lasting financial transformation. And I create content like this because I know there are people ready to apply these principles rather than just consuming them passively. If this resonates with how you want to approach your financial growth, I'd love to have you subscribe to the channel. This is where I consistently share the deeper psychology behind wealth building, the mental strategies that most people never discover, and the practical approaches that create real results rather than temporary motivation. Drop a comment saying, "This message was meant for me," if you made it all the way through, because I genuinely want to know who's ready to do this internal work rather than just hoping for external changes. When you hit that like button, you're letting me know this connection we've created over the last hour has value for your journey. There's a video right here that takes these concepts even deeper, showing you exactly how to implement these mental practices in your daily routine for maximum impact. Click and continue with me over there, because your transformation is just getting started.